Daniel stood at the front door, dressed in his army uniform. The sunlight touched his face, but his heart felt heavy. His wife, Lena, stood beside him with a stiff smile. Their little son, Eli, only 5 years old, held his father's hand tightly. "Be strong, okay?" Daniel said, kneeling down in front of Eli. "Daddy will be back, I promise." Eli nodded, but his eyes were full of fear. He didn't say anything, just hugged his father and didn't let go for a long time. Daniel kissed his son's forehead and hugged Lena. Then, without looking back again, he walked away. The mission was long and far away. Daniel was sent to another country with his team. There were no quick visits home, no early returns, just long months of silence and war. Still, Daniel wrote letters every week. He sent small gifts, tiny toy cars, storybooks, and drawings he made when he had free time. He always included a message for Eli. "Daddy loves you, be strong." But something felt wrong. Lena stopped replying regularly. Her messages became short, cold. Sometimes she didn't even mention Eli. Daniel asked about his son, but she just said, "He's fine, don't worry so much." Daniel did worry. A lot. One day, after many months, Daniel got a video call from home. He was so happy he almost dropped his phone. On the screen, he saw Lena sitting on the couch. Eli was sitting next to her, looking thin and quiet. His eyes looked tired. "Hi, buddy." Daniel smiled. "It's so good to see you." Eli didn't smile. He looked at his mother, then slowly leaned toward the screen. His voice was so soft, Daniel almost didn't hear it. "Mom hurts me when you're gone." And then the screen went black. The call ended. Just like that. Daniel froze. He stared at the black screen, heart beating like a drum. He called back immediately, but no answer. Again and again. Nothing. The line stayed dead. Daniel sat in silence. The words kept repeating in his mind. "Mom hurts me when you're gone." Was it a mistake? Did he hear it wrong? Was Eli just scared or sad? No. He knew his child's voice. He knew what he heard. Daniel reported it to his officer. He asked for permission to return home. But the answer was the same. "You're inactive. Duty? No leave allowed at this time." He tried calling the local police in his town. They said there wasn't enough proof. Maybe the kid was just emotional, they said. Call child services if it happens again. But Daniel knew something was wrong. He couldn't sleep that night. He stared at Eli's photo in his pocket, the same one he carried since the day he left. His son's smile in the picture was so bright, so full of life. Now that smile was gone. Weeks passed. No new calls, no messages, just silence. Daniel's worry turned into fear. Then fear turned into quiet anger. He started asking other soldiers if they had ever experienced something like this. Some shared stories, but no one had answers. They were all too far from home, just like him. In the middle of the night, Daniel would wake up in his bunk, sweating. He kept hearing Eli's voice in his head. "Mom hurts me when you're gone. Mom hurts me when you're gone." He didn't know what kind of hurt it was. Was it shouting, hitting, locking him in a room? His mind imagined terrible things, and that made it worse. One day, a small package arrived from home. It was another drawing from Eli. No message from Lena this time. Daniel opened it slowly. The picture showed a house. A sad-looking stick-figure child stood in the corner of the drawing. There was a big red X over the bedroom window. Daniel's hands shook as he stared at it. He showed the picture to his best friend in the camp. The friend just said, "You need to get home, man. Something's not right." But Daniel couldn't. Not yet. So he waited, watched the calendar, and prayed that his son was safe. At night, he held the drawing in one hand and Eli's photo in the other. His mind repeated that one terrible sentence again and again. "Mom hurts me when you're gone." That whisper had broken something inside Daniel. He wasn't just a soldier anymore, he was a father on edge, a father who couldn't protect his child. And he had no idea that this one whisper was only the beginning. The truth hiding behind it was much darker than anything he could imagine. After the drawing arrived, Daniel kept it safe in a small box with his other memories from home. But he couldn't stop looking at it. The sad child in the corner, the red X over the window. The picture didn't look like just a child's art. It looked like a silent cry for help. Daniel sent letters. Back immediately. He asked questions. Eli, are you okay? Lena, why won't you call me anymore? Is Eli safe? But there were no answers. Weeks passed, then months. Lena sent only short replies. We're fine. Busy with school. Stop asking. The same things. Daniel could feel something had changed. These didn't sound like the woman he married. Her words felt cold, almost angry. It was like she was trying to shut him out. He noticed something else. Eli's name stopped showing up in the letters, not even a "he's fine" anymore. It was as if his son had disappeared from her life. Daniel felt helpless. Every day he checked the mail with hope. Every night he went to bed with fear. He kept seeing Eli's face from the video call, thin, quiet, and scared. He remembered how the little boy didn't smile, how he looked at his mom before whispering those awful words. Mom hurts me when you're gone. That one sentence never left Daniel's mind. One day, Daniel got a letter from an old neighbor back home, Mrs. Ellis, an elderly lady who lived next door. Her words were careful. Dear Daniel, I hope you're safe. I haven't seen Eli outside for many months. I asked Lena, but she said he prefers to stay in. That boy used to love playing in the yard. It's strange. I hope everything is okay. Daniel's heart dropped as he read it. Eli was always full of energy. He loved being outside. Why would he suddenly stay in all the time? Was he being kept inside? Was he being punished? Was someone stopping him from leaving? Daniel took the letter to his commander. He begged again for leave. Please, I think my son is in danger. I'm not sure what's happening, but I need to go home. The commander looked sad but firm. Daniel, I understand. But you're in a war zone. You know we can't send anyone home unless it's an emergency with proof. If we do it for one, we have to do it for all. Daniel nodded slowly. But inside, he was breaking. He had no proof, no voice messages, no photos, just a child's drawing, a whisper, a feeling in his chest that something terrible was happening. But wasn't a father's instinct proof enough? That night, something strange happened. Daniel was going through old photos on his phone, and he found one from before he left for the mission. It was a picture of Eli sitting on the grass, smiling, with Lena behind him. But as Daniel looked closer, he noticed something small, a bruise, on Eli's arm. It had looked like a shadow at first. But now, with everything else happening, Daniel wondered, was it something more? Why hadn't he noticed it before? Daniel started collecting everything. He printed the photo with the bruise. He saved the drawing with the red X. He copied the letter from the neighbor. He built a small file of all the signs. But still, no one would act. Child Services said they needed a full report. The local police asked for more proof. Daniel was stuck behind walls of rules, while his child might be living in pain. He wrote back to Lena one more time. Just one sentence. If Eli isn't okay, I will find out. You can't hide the truth forever. She never replied. Every day, Daniel's thoughts grew darker. Where was Eli sleeping now? Was he locked in a room? Was he being yelled at, hit, ignored, and, most of all, was he still waiting for his dad to save him? Daniel held on to hope, but fear was winning. He knew that if he ever made it back home, he wouldn't just return as a soldier. He'd return as a father who had to uncover the truth. Truth buried behind silence. A truth that might break him. Daniel was no longer the young man who once kissed his son goodbye. His face had lines now. His heart carried the weight of war and the pain of not knowing what had happened to his child. Finally, the war ended. The mission was over. Soldiers were allowed to return home. Daniel didn't waste a second. As soon as he landed in his home country, he rushed through every checkpoint, every airport. His bag was small. He didn't care about luggage. He only wanted to see his son. When Daniel reached his street, everything looked the same. The same trees, the same mailbox, the same front porch where Eli used to sit and wait for him. But something felt different. The air felt colder. He stood in front of the door for a moment. His hands trembled slightly. What would he see inside? Would Eli run into his arms? Would he be okay? Or had the years changed everything? Daniel took a deep breath and knocked. The door opened. Lena stood there. She looked surprised. Not happy. Not angry. Just surprised. As if she didn't expect him to really come back. "You're back," she said in a flat voice. Daniel nodded, slowly. "Where's Eli?" Lena stepped aside. Inside, Daniel entered the house. It looked clean, neat, too neat. Everything was in place, but it didn't feel warm. It didn't feel like a home with a child inside. And then, he saw him. Eli stood at the end of the hallway. He wasn't 5 anymore. He was 12 now, taller, thinner. His hair had grown longer. His face was pale. His eyes looked tired, older than his age. For a second, Daniel didn't move. And then, Eli ran. He threw his arms around his father and held on tightly. "Dad," he whispered, like he wasn't sure if this was real. Daniel hugged him with all the strength he had. He didn't care about anything else in that moment. His son was in his arms, after 7 years. But even in that moment of love, Daniel felt something strange. Eli was shaking. They sat on the couch together. Daniel asked simple questions about school, about his favorite games, about friends. Eli answered, but his words were short, careful. Lena watched them from the kitchen. She didn't speak much. When Daniel asked if Eli had been okay all these years, Lena cut in quickly. "He's fine. I raised him alone. You know how hard that was?" Daniel didn't respond. He looked at Eli, who was staring at the floor. That night after dinner, Daniel helped Eli get ready for bed. He entered the boys' room and noticed something strange. The door had a lock on the outside, not normal. He looked around the room. It had a bed, a desk, a window, but nothing that showed warmth, no toys, no posters, no signs of childhood. Eli lay down quietly. Daniel sat beside him. "Eli," he whispered, "are you okay?" Eli looked at him for a moment, then nodded. But before closing his eyes, Eli whispered something else. "Don't let her lock me in again." Daniel's body froze. He didn't sleep that night. He walked through the house quietly. Every corner felt like it was hiding something. He found old photos in a drawer, but Eli was missing from most of them, like he had been erased. He checked the kitchen and saw a small, locked cabinet. Inside, there were kids' medicines, bandages, and something that looked like sleep syrup. Why so much? Why locked? In the morning, Daniel asked Lena about the door lock. "Oh, that?" She laughed nervously. "Just for safety. He used to run around too much at night when he was little." Daniel didn't believe her. He started looking at everything, more closely now. The way Lena avoided certain questions. The way Eli stayed quiet whenever she entered the room. The way the house felt like a prison, not a home. He decided to talk to Eli alone. "Let's go for ice cream," he said. Eli looked surprised. "We haven't done that in a long time." Daniel smiled. "Then let's change that." As they left the house, Lena stared at them. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. Daniel knew one thing for sure. Something terrible had happened here, and now he was going to find out the truth. No matter what. Daniel and Eli sat at a small ice cream shop near the park. It was quiet, peaceful. The kind of place where a father and son should laugh together, not whisper dark truths. But Eli wasn't smiling. He looked at his ice cream, barely taking a bite. Daniel waited for the right moment. Then, in a soft voice, he said, "Eli, what did you mean last night about the lock, about Mom?" Eli looked around like he was afraid someone was watching. Then he whispered, "She used to lock me in when I was little. If I cried, she made me stay longer." Daniel's heart cracked. "For how long?" he asked. Eli shrugged. "Sometimes all night, sometimes for days." Daniel tried to stay calm. He didn't want to scare his son, but inside he was boiling with anger. "How did you eat?" She'd leave food outside the door sometimes. Daniel's hands shook under the table. His child had lived like a prisoner, and no one had told him. No one had helped. Back at the house, Daniel made a decision. Lena wasn't home. She had gone to visit a friend. Daniel used this time to explore. He checked every room, every drawer, every locked door. Then he found something strange in the hallway closet. A small trapdoor in the floor, covered by a rug and a basket of clothes. He moved everything and opened the door. Stairs led down into darkness. With a flashlight, Daniel climbed down. The air was cold. The walls were rough. It didn't feel like a basement. It felt like a cage. At the bottom, he found a small room. The walls were scratched. There were old blankets on the floor, a broken toy, a pillow with Eli's name written on it. Daniel froze. This was where his son had been kept. No windows, no light, no comfort. He touched the wall and saw marks, tiny lines, scratched into the surface. Like someone had been counting days. Daniel went back upstairs, his chest burning with rage and sorrow. He looked at the family photos again. Eli's face was missing in most of them. It all made sense now. Lena hadn't just been cold. She had erased their son from her life. Daniel didn't know what had made her change. He remembered her as a kind, loving woman. But the person in this house was not the woman he once loved. That evening, Lena came home. Daniel sat waiting at the kitchen table. He didn't shout. He didn't scream. He simply asked, "Why?" Lena looked at him, then turned away. "Don't start. Why did you lock him in the basement?" She froze. For a second, she said nothing, then she smiled. "Because he wouldn't listen. He cried too much. He was weak. You left, Daniel. I had to raise him alone. I had to make him strong." Daniel stood up slowly. "You didn't make him strong. You broke him." Lena's smile faded. "Don't act like a hero now. You weren't here. You didn't see how hard it was." "No," Daniel said, voice shaking. "But I'm here now, and I see everything." That night, Daniel called child services. He showed them everything. The secret room, the old drawing, the neighbor's letter, the door lock, even the scratches in the wall. It was enough. They took Eli into safe care immediately. Lena was questioned. She didn't even try to deny it. Daniel watched as they took her away. She didn't cry. She didn't even look back. For the first time in years, Daniel and Eli sat in a warm, safe room. No locks, no secrets, just silence and healing. Eli leaned on his father's shoulder and whispered, "Thank you for coming home." Daniel held him close. "I'm sorry it took me so long." For the first few days, things felt calm. Daniel and Eli stayed in a temporary safe house arranged by child services. The rooms were quiet. The bed was soft. No locks, no dark basements. For the first time in years, Eli slept through the night. Daniel tried to stay strong. He didn't show his tears, but inside he was drowning in guilt. He had missed 7 years of his son's life, 7 years of pain. He thought the worst was over. But it wasn't. One evening, Daniel received a phone call. It was from Officer Grayson, the detective working on Lena's case. "There's something you should see," he said. At the police station, Grayson placed a file on the table. "We checked Lena's background more closely," he explained. "We thought she acted alone, but there's more." Daniel opened the file. His eyes widened. There were reports from school signed by Eli's old teachers. Complaints about bruises, strange behavior, missed classes. "No one ever told me," Daniel said quietly. Grayson nodded. "They reported it, but someone inside. The system blocked the reports." Daniel felt cold all over. "Who?" Grayson slid over a second file, and that's when Daniel saw the name. Margaret Lane, Lena's sister, Eli's aunt, a woman who worked in social services. Daniel stared at the paper. Margaret had access to school reports, child welfare files. She had the power to remove or bury complaints, and she had used that power to protect her sister and let Eli suffer in silence. "She blocked 3 reports over the years," Grayson said. "Each time the case was closed, No home check, no warning. Daniel clenched his fists. So they both let it happen. Grayson nodded. Looks like Lena did the harm, and Margaret made sure no one found out. Daniel couldn't believe. So he remembered Margaret's friendly smile in the past. How she used to bring cookies when Eli was little. How she'd say, "Family always protects family." Now he understood what she meant. That night, Daniel sat beside Eli's bed. The boy was asleep, hugging a small stuffed animal Daniel had bought him. Daniel whispered, "You were surrounded by people who should have protected you, but they didn't." He promised in that quiet moment, "I'll never let anyone hurt you again, not ever." The next day, Daniel went to court. He brought everything: files, photos, the school reports, the hidden trapdoor photos, and proof of Margaret's cover-up, the chew. Judge listened carefully. Margaret was called in for questioning. She looked calm until the evidence was shown. One by one, the lies fell apart. She tried to defend herself. "I was just trying to help my sister. She was under pressure, raising. A child alone is hard." But the judge didn't accept that excuse. "You didn't help her," the judge said coldly. "You helped her hide abuse." Margaret was suspended from her job. A full investigation started. Lena remained in custody. Her trial was coming soon. Daniel was granted full custody of Eli. But he knew this wasn't the end. Eli had wounds, invisible ones, the kind that couldn't be seen on skin, the kind that lived deep in the heart. One evening, Eli asked, "Was it my fault? Did I do something wrong?" Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "No, son. None of this was your fault. Bad people did bad things, but you survived. That makes you stronger than anyone I know." Eli looked up at him and whispered, "But I was so scared." Daniel hugged him tightly. "You don't have to be scared anymore. I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere." Daniel and Eli began to build a new life, slow, careful, and quiet. They moved to a small town far from the pain of their old home. The air was fresh. The people were kind. Eli even started going to a new school. Every night, Daniel checked on him. He made sure there were no locked doors, no dark corners. He promised Eli again and again, "You are safe now." And slowly, Eli started to smile again. But peace never lasts forever. One afternoon, Daniel received a letter. No name, no return address, just 6 words written in shaky handwriting. "I know what really happened." Daniel stared at it. Was it a prank or something worse? He tried to ignore it, threw it away. But the next day he found another note, this time taped to his car window. She wasn't alone. Look deeper. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. Who was sending these notes, and what did they mean? He had already found out about Lena and her sister Margaret. What else was there? His mind raced with questions. The next morning, a man showed up outside the gate, mid-50s, wearing a brown coat, holding a folder under his arm. He didn't look dangerous, but he didn't smile either. Daniel opened the door halfway. "Can I help you?" the man said. "My name's Walter. I used to live next door to Lena. I saw things no one wanted to believe." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "Why are you here now?" Walter held up the folder. "Because I tried to report her years ago. No one listened, but maybe now you will." They sat at the kitchen table. Walter opened the folder. Inside were old photos, copies of letters, and a journal. He pointed to a photo of young Eli standing in the backyard, alone, thin, holding a torn stuffed toy. "That was the day she locked him out in the rain for hours," Walter said. "I took the photo. I thought it would be enough." Daniel looked at the next page, a letter sent to Child Services. "I wrote this. I sent it. I begged them to look into it. But again and again the answer was the same. Case closed. No action. Needed?" Daniel's hands shook as he flipped through the pages. "How did this all get ignored?" he asked. Walter said quietly, "Because your wife had help. Friends in the system. People who didn't want trouble." Daniel leaned back, stunned. He had only seen the surface. Now a deeper rot was showing. Walter continued. One time I tried to talk to Eli. I asked him if he was okay. He didn't speak, just looked down. His arm was bruised. Daniel clenched his jaw. Why didn't you come to me? Walter lowered his eyes. I tried. I sent a letter to your base overseas. I never got a reply. Daniel's heart sank. He had never seen that letter. Had it been lost? Or had someone made sure he never received it? Then Walter said something that made Daniel's blood run cold. I think your wife wasn't just hurting Eli. I think she was being watched and protected by someone high up, someone who wanted the truth buried. Daniel sat in silence. He thought the pain was over, but now it seemed a bigger truth was waiting to be uncovered. That night, Daniel told Eli about Walter. Eli was quiet for a long time. Then he whispered, I remember him. He waved at me once. I wasn't allowed to wave back. Daniel held his son close. No one will ever silence you again. But just as Daniel started planning to bring Walter's proof to court, something unexpected happened. Walter disappeared. He didn't answer his phone. His house was empty. His folder, gone. Daniel rushed to the police, but all they said was, maybe. He left town. Daniel knew better. Someone didn't want the truth to come out. Walter was gone. No phone calls, no messages, no signs of struggle. The only man who had dared to speak the truth had vanished without warning. Daniel knew what this meant. Someone powerful was still watching, still covering things up. He looked over at Eli, asleep on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, his stuffed animal tucked close. Daniel whispered to himself, I won't let them win. The next morning, Daniel went to the local newspaper. He showed them the school reports, the court records, and a copy he had made of Walter's letter before it disappeared. At first, the reporter hesitated. These are serious claims. If this goes public, I'm ready, Daniel said. My son deserves the truth. Others might be suffering too. This isn't just about Eli anymore. The reporter nodded slowly. We'll run the story. Week later, the headline shook the town and the country. Soldier fights hidden system that let his son be abused for years. The article spread fast. People were shocked, angry, heartbroken, and more began to speak up. Other parents, other children, people who had been ignored by the same system, shut down, silenced, or threatened. Then something unexpected happened. A woman came to Daniel's door, mid-40s, nervous, holding a bag in her hands. My name's Clara, she said. I used to work in child services with Margaret Lane. Daniel stiffened. What do you want? She lowered her eyes. To help. Inside, Clara told him the truth. Margaret, she was part of a group. They didn't just ignore abuse, they moved cases around, protected each other, covered things up. Why? Daniel asked. Some of it was money. Some of it was fear. If they reported too many cases, they'd lose funding. So they made it disappear. Quietly. Daniel sat in silence. The system wasn't broken by accident. It was broken on purpose. Clara reached into her bag and pulled out a flash drive. This has everything, emails, messages, internal memos. I saved it. I was too scared to speak before, but after I read your story, I knew I had to. Daniel took the flash drive straight to the FBI. This time they listened. A full investigation began. Names were exposed, people arrested, cases reopened. Margaret Lane was charged again, not just for hiding Lena's abuse, but for helping cover dozens of other cases. Walter was found a week later, alive, but shaken. He had been threatened and forced to disappear. Now he was safe and ready to testify. Months later, Daniel stood in a courtroom once more, but this time not to defend or fight. This time, to win. Lena was sentenced to 18 years in prison. Margaret got 25. Clara was protected as a key witness, and Daniel was asked to speak to a crowd of parents, teachers, and officials. He looked at them and said, I was trained to fight battles in war, but the hardest war I ever fought was for my child. If we stay silent, darkness wins. If we speak, truth rises. Eli sat in the front row, now 8 years old, stronger, smiling more often. He clapped loudest of all. After the speech, he ran to his father and said, "You didn't just save me, Dad. You saved a lot of kids." Daniel held him close. "You saved me too, Eli." That night, under a peaceful sky, Daniel and Eli sat together outside, watching the stars. No secrets, no fear, just love, and the knowledge that even in the darkest moments truth can break through.